money for the Trump Organization, telling CNN the company recently terminated 3 overseas deals. It follows increasing concerns over possible conflicts of interest between Trump's companies and his presidency. The president-elect was supposed to hold a news conference today to explain how he would avoid such problems. Instead, that was cancelled. Now Donald Trump's blaming the media for hyping the issue. He tweeted, "The media tries so hard to make my move to the White House as it pertains to my business so complex, when actually it isn't." Joining me now from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, is the Democratic Congressman Ted Deutch, a member of the House Ethics Committee. We should mention no Republican members of the Congress of the committee agreed to come on the program. But we're glad to have you, Congressman. We're glad to have you and your interpretation. Look, the reality is, get used to it, as we saw yesterday with the meeting of tech CEOs. There were the children in the room. What's wrong with this?
First of all, the president-elect is exactly wrong. It is very complicated, and the fact is that it's been clear for every president in modern times, they have to be very clear in divesting all of their holdings so that the American people know that their focus is entirely on the security and prosperity of America and not on their own personal interests. He's at risk of violating the Ethics in Government Act. He's at risk of violating the Stock Act, and most importantly, he's very clearly at risk if he doesn't make a change and comply with the law. He's going to violate the United States Constitution, the foreign payments, the foreign bribery clause that says very clearly that an elected official cannot accept payments from foreign governments, and there are a myriad of examples where he does every single day.
Well, I take your point, but he says, and I really don't want to get into a yaboo who says what, but he says many of those federal laws, most of those federal laws do not apply to the president. The president is exempt from the conflict of interest rules that others are bound by. And anyway, the public knew what they were buying when they bought Donald Trump.
First of all, he is technically right about the ethics in government law, but as the office that enforces that law said just this week, every president in modern times has adhered to the spirit of it, whether required to or not.
Every president has released his tax returns. Every president has done something else. The reality is, what I'm trying to get here from you, Congressman, is the reality is he's doing it differently. Aren't you and others going to have to accept that?
I don't think that anyone in this country is willing to accept the potential violation of the United States Constitution by the President of the United States. That, for me, is as troubling as any of the rest of this. If you look at his business dealings, both in this country, where a China-owned bank is the largest tenant in Trump Tower, if you look at Deutsche Bank, which is a big lender of his, which is still negotiating with the Justice Department right now over their role in the financial crisis in 2008. And if you look at the Trump deals in Turkey, in the Philippines, in China, in Scotland, all around the world, any payments in connection with those deals, as long as he's a part of them, will violate the Constitution. So simply saying, well, you knew and I'm going to be different. No one expected that Donald Trump or any other president would come to office seeking to violate the Constitution.
So he says today that he's terminating a licensing deal for a hotel in Baku, Azerbaijan, another deal in, forgive me turning away from the screen, in Rio de Janeiro, and a couple of other deals as well. I mean, will you only be satisfied when he's not just divested, but sold the lot off?
Yeah. Right. Well, I was hoping that today we would be able to talk about his big plan that with great fanfare he announced he was going to share with us. That's now been postponed until January. I mean, certainly we'll take a look at what he's proposing, but the only way to clearly be able to comply with the law and to prevent the insider trading, which is another concern when his daughter sits in a meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan, even as she's negotiating with a company that has ties to the government of Japan. Those sorts of things all have to be addressed. We need a president who will be focused on the American people first and foremost and not their business. I'll look forward to hearing what his plan is, but it's got to comply with law and it's got to satisfy the requirements of the Constitution of the United States.
Congressman, we were hoping to talk about that to you as well when before it was cancelled. But please promise me, sir, that you will come back when we do know what the plan is and we can thrash it out again.
I will gladly make that promise. Look forward to talking to you again.
Excellent. Good to see you, sir.